So Sahil, you mentioned the events calendar. That's a brand new feature we actually just released literally last week. So do you want to start there as a place to just jump in?
Yeah, that sounds great. So yeah, as I mentioned, the first area that's important, when it comes to earnings for me is idea generation. And we just launched this really exciting feature, the events calendar, which I think is a very powerful way to find interesting ideas. So just jumping into this, the first thing I wanted to highlight is we actually cover a lot of different events. So not just quarterly earnings, but if you come here to the top right corner, you'll see that we have, not just earnings calls, but we have company conference presentations, the investor day, M&A calls, so any acquisitions, and then there's a whole bunch of different sort of events here. For me personally, again, coming to the idea generation side, other than earnings, I find the investor day really interesting. So companies will have investor days, and these are just a great way to learn about the business in a ton of depth, because usually management will have a multiple hour long kind of presentation on the business, their strategic roadmap, the long-term kind of financial projections of the business. And so you can see, on Thursday, Ferrari had a big investor day, and, a lot of these other companies here as well. And actually another thing that's worth highlighting with TIKR in general is we cover not just the US, but global companies and global stocks, which is a real big differentiator. And so here as well, you can see, we have a lot of foreign companies that had these big investor days. So I think investor days are one really interesting way to find ideas, because, especially if it's a smaller business and, they're having an investor day, there may not be a lot of other investors that are looking at that. And so, here's a company like Technotrans, for example. I don't know anything about this business, but it's interesting. It's only a $270 million company, but they have a big investor day. And so, this can be a great way to learn about a business and understand the long-term fundamentals, and then try and understand if it could be a good investment, which I'll get into that a little later in this video as well. Also, M&A calls, if these can be really interesting too, because obviously if a company has a big acquisition and they have an M&A call, sometimes that can be another area where maybe there's an inflection of the business. People are not properly understanding how important this acquisition could be from a synergy perspective, from an earnings perspective, longer term. And so that can be an opportunity as well. And then, coming back to earnings calls, which is obviously the focus of this webinar today. This is a really awesome way to keep track of all of the earnings that are happening, both in the past as well as sort of upcoming earnings calls. So the ones that have already occurred, so for example, this Pepsi one, you'll actually be able to go directly to the transcript. If you hover over the event, you'll see how there's an underlying hover state here. So if you click through to this, it'll take you directly to the transcript, which I'll do in a little bit. We also let you filter by market cap, by industry, and by country. So you can focus in on the sectors or the countries that matter most to you. So again, I just think a very, very powerful tool to find interesting ideas.